A Plaguelands Media production.
Hey everyone, this is Hugh from Plaguelands Media bringing you another book review today. So, cheers. Now you might be wondering straight off the bat why I don't have my regular glass of whiskey. The primary reason is my wife and I came back from a trip to Europe. Part of that trip we were in the Czech Republic, primarily in Prague, and I absolutely fell in love with this beer. It's constantly voted the number one beer, or the number one Czech beer. Whether or not that's true, I don't know. It doesn't have a very high alcohol content. It's about 4.4. But I absolutely love this. It's a little expensive over here. We did find it yesterday in our local supermarket a lot cheaper than it usually is. But I decided today, you know what? I finished the book I'm going to review in Prague. So I might as well drink a Prague beer while I review it. And that book is Feathered Dragon by Douglas Niles. This is book 3 in the Maztica trilogy. I've already reviewed Iron Helm. I have reviewed Viper Hand as well. So I'm not going to go over the full story of the trilogy in this video. If you want to know what happens in those books, go back and watch those videos. They are quite entertaining. But let's just talk about this fantastic cover, another Fred Fields cover. I absolutely love it. The covers for all of the Maztica books have just knocked it straight out of the park. Now, at the end of Viper Hand, the stakes were really high. The evil Viper Hand army, this kind of cult that had been ravaging Nexal, were basically turned into classic fantasy trope monsters, orcs, ogres, hobgoblins, all of that kind of stuff, by Lolth, but the high priest of the god of war, Zaltek, believes that he is the one that did it. The city of Nexal is completely destroyed, and our heroes were forced to flee. Some of them lived, some of them died. Feathered Dragon takes up immediately where that book left off. We have the good guys led by Halloran and Eric Still, our pretty much two main characters, trekking through the desert trying to find the desert dwarves. They believe that their friend Goltek is dead, that he died in the destruction of Nexal. Cordell is here, De Grand is here, kind of everyone that you would expect, along with all of the refugees. And what they have discovered is that with the destruction of Nexal, the world has changed. Sometimes for the better, sometimes for the worst. And this leads to a showdown between the two main gods, Zaltek, the god of war, and his brother Kutal, the god of peace. So we have kind of Talon magic versus Pluma magic. So, there you have it. I'm not going to go into any more spoilers here. That's for the main part of the review. So if you want to stop now and go and read this book for yourself, which I do highly recommend because it was a fantastic end to this trilogy. And once again, my brother was pushing this when I was in high school, and I kept telling him, oh, that looks fucked. I was basing the books on their covers. Now I can appreciate their covers. These books were fantastic. It was a solid trilogy. So cheers to the Maztica trilogy. Cheers to all of you that are tuning out now. Please have a fantastic rest of your day. But if you want a spoiler-filled review of Feathered Dragon, stick around for the next episode of Roll the fucking tape, idiot.
Read a fucking book. Read a fucking book. Read a fucking book. People.
So, as I've said, the world is now changing. Now, what this means is that the desert, the one that almost killed Poshley when he left the Eagle Knights, the desert now has these oases springing up. So these refugees can find food and water. They don't last very long because there's so many refugees that these places get dried out and all the food is taken really quickly. But they're surviving. All the while, this army of monsters is on their heels, led by Hoxtil, the high priest of Zaltek from the first and second novels. They managed to find the dwarves, the desert dwarves, and the desert dwarves join them in their quest. Eric still is still having these, what would you call them? Visions of darkness. And then they see an eagle, which they assume is Poshley, who has been helping them. He was living with this tribe and being taught the ways of the druid, but also teaching them how to fight because I'm sorry for that slight interruption delay there, but for some reason the South Korean government decided to send me a message and it cuts off the video. So thank you for that, South Korean government. You're a credit to the population. So they see this eagle, and at the same time, some of the stragglers have been wiped out by these creatures. And a young boy, well, not a young boy, he's about 14 years old, manages to come to the camp and explain what is going on. They discover that there is a huge oasis where they can set up camp just over this rise, but the eagle's pointing them in a different direction. So Halloran decides, good idea, let's split the party. He, Eric Still, and De Grand, and the boy, who sneaks after them when he shouldn't, go off in the direction of the eagle, and Cordell leads everyone to the oasis. Now, while this is going on, there's a story with Eric Still's father. He's making this pluma coat because Eric Still loses hers or something. There's a lot of little details. I'm going to fuck it up, but just go with it. So, while all this is happening, Zaltek has actually returned in the form of this giant obelisk stone golem thing that is now marching towards what is known as the City of the Gods. This was an ancient city where Zaltek and Katal and a few other gods resided. They brought humans in, and humans built them these monuments, the largest pyramid and all this kind of cool shit. And then the gods told the humans, fuck off, we don't want you here anymore. And this is where Zaltek and Katal fight, and Zaltek ultimately is the winner. Eric still believes that Katal is going to come back at this pyramid. So she needs to be there because she is the chosen one. While all this is going on, we find out that Goltek did not die. Goltek survived and is now flying around the ethereal planes on the back of Kutal, who actually is quite an arrogant piece of shit for a giant feathered dragon. Think Falcor the luck dragon, but instead of fur, he has feathers, and every time Atreyu says something to him, Falcor will go, shut the fuck up. That's pretty much this god's attitude. They get to this temple. They manage to summon Kutal. Zaltek comes, and Kutal and Zaltek fight. And Zaltek wins. And Kutal is banished again. They realize there's only one other place that Kutal can come into Maztica, the true world, and that is through the twin visages. Now, these were the first things that Cordell's fleet saw when they arrived on the land of Maztica. These two giant stone faces that are looking out to the sea, apparently waiting for Kutal to come back. And this is the spot where it's going to be done. Now, at the same time, you've got Poshley being called back to his village because the Driders are attacking. Lolth has given these Driders, led by Darien, the Dark Elf wizard from the first book that betrayed everyone, an army. She's given them an army of giant ants. So straight away, all I'm thinking is the old 50s horror film Them. And if you haven't seen Them, it is a freaking masterpiece. I would also recommend trying to track down the Commodore Amiga video game because that was a lot of fun as well. So they're kind of rampaging down to wipe out this village. Poshley comes and says, listen, we've got to run away from these things. And they kind of start to flee doing guerrilla tactics. They kill one or two Driders. The giant ants are a huge problem, though, because their weapons won't pierce the chitinous skin of the plates, I should say, of the ants. So that's going on. While that's going on, you have another conquistador who's been summoned to the city of Arm. This is the city from Baldur's Gate 2, but it is also the city that Cordell started from. And they haven't heard from Cordell in a year, and they want their fucking gold, and they think that he's vanished with the gold. So this other conquistador, I believe his name is Vayaz or Dayaz or some shit like that, he gets a giant fleet together, bigger than Cordell's fleet. Mercenaries and wizards and all of that kind of stuff. And he's like, you know what? Let's go. Let's go get your gold back. And his aim is to basically kill Cordell and take all of his glory. He has a priest with him. This priest has been contacted in the past by Bishu Dominkus. You might remember the priest of Helm, whose daughter was killed in the first book. And he ultimately died in Nexal when he was dragged underwater by monsters as he was running across the canals. And so the priest knows exactly the heading, exactly where to go. And so this guy sails and he lands at Helm's Port, which was the outpost that Cordell set up. And he takes that over and he ends up marching on the first city that Cordell kind of took over. And he's like, all right, fantastic. We're all good. So let's just wait here. And when he comes, we'll fuck him over and everyone that's with him. Now, he's not very much liked by his soldiers, by his crew, by anyone, because he's a bit of an arrogant dick. So you have that story going on at the same time. Halloran, Eric Still, the Grand, and the teenage boy, whose name I can't remember, it's like Jestly or something, they realise kind of we've got to go to the Twin Visages. So they start heading that way. And as they're heading that way, they get caught up in the battle with the Driders and the giant ants, which ends up happening on a hill, or a cliff, I should say, and the ants are crushed. The Driders kind of flee because most of their ant army is destroyed, and Darien says, you know what? I know they're headed here. Let's go here, and we'll wait for them, and then we will completely and utterly fuck them up. Now, while this is happening, there's a priest of Kutal. I believe the priest of Kutal and Ericstill's father is actually traveling with them. Ericstill's father is making this cloak. And they end up getting to the Twin Visages. Cordell and his men rush to Helmsport. They discover that this guy has come. An Eagle Knight sees that Helmsport has been taken, and Cordell is like, thank you, brother. We're getting the fuck there. And a few of his men go with him, and they get captured. But they start an uprising, and it's ultimately successful, so they can now go and march on the Twin Visages to help out Eric Still and Halloran. So they get to the Twin Visages. There's a huge fight. The Driders are fighting, and the young boy is killed. Eric Still's father, and by the way, I forgot to mention this, but this whole time she's pregnant. And when they get to the Twin Visages and the fight starts, that's when the baby's like, I'm fucking coming out. I want in on this shit. He's like that baby from that comedy company. He's responsible. Go look it up if you don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. So, the kid is dead. The father lays the Pluma cloak that he made over this kid. Eventually the baby comes. They wrap it up in the Pluma cloak. And the blind guy sees that Zaltek has come here and Kutal has come here as well. The blind guy is a priest of Kutal, but as they're fighting, he suddenly realizes, you fucking abandoned us. We didn't abandon you. We've been waiting for you to come back, you arrogant piece of shit. And he, after Zaltek is defeated, he tells Kutal off. And Kutal was like, who the fuck are you to talk to me like that? I'm your fucking god. And the guy's like, no, we don't need you. Fuck off. We live by your principles, yes, but we don't need you. At this point, Darien, the last rider left standing, goes to attack. The blind priest, I believe his name is, it's very similar, Kutal, Cole, something like that. He grabs the Pluma cloak and he throws it over Darien because he realizes that if Darien is still alive, Zaltek can come back. And if he's still alive, Kutal can come back. And he tells Halloran, kill me. And Halloran's like umming and ahhing, but ultimately ends up stabbing through the cloak, which is wrapped around the Drider, and ends up killing the Drider and the priest at the same time. And that causes both gods to be banished from the land. At this point, the boy that was killed wakes up and he's like, hey, what did I miss? Did I miss the fight? Oh, shit. Well, I'm alive now, thanks to your dad. So Maztica is saved. It's forever changed. I did forget a really funny part. So along their journey, Halloran and Eric Still are picking up followers. They pick up desert dwarves. And then they come to this place where they're kidnapped by pygmies. Now, in this, the pygmies are just like savage halflings. And they throw them in this pit with what is known as the Jaguar Lord. He's just this giant fucking talking jaguar. And Halloran kind of basically mocks this guy, and they escape, and all the halflings are like, ooga chaka, ooga chaka, ooga chaka, and they follow them. That's not the funny part. The funny part is, all through this trilogy of books, there's been an assessor from Arm, this fucking guy called Kassan. Kassan is a traitor. He betrays Cordell. All he wants is gold. All he wants is to go back home. He's a whiny little bitch boy. When he realizes that the good guys have won, he runs off into the jungle. Now, one of Halloran's mocking of the Jaguar Lord is, you can't feed yourself anymore because you're old and you're feeble and you've got to get these guys to do it for you. You're fucking useless. The Jaguar Lord escapes the pit after the halflings kind of go off with Halloran, and he's roaming around the jungle and he's like, I am weak. I can't hunt. I've been eating shit for weeks now. And then this assessor runs across his path and the Jaguar Lord just smiles and says, oh, it's very nice to meet you. And that's where that guy's story ends, because you know that Jaguar is going to fucking wreck the shit of him and just devour his body. So I thought that was kind of funny. Good guys win. Halloran and Eric Still had a son. And at the end of the book, they kind of just go off and live happily ever after. They're reunited with Gultek after he comes back with Kutal. Nexile is still in ruins. There are still monsters running around. And now Helm and the Golden Legion have solidified Helm's Port as the major trading center with the Sword Coast in the main body of Faerun, which is actually still a thing in Dungeons and Dragons to this day, I believe. So that was my review of Feathered Dragons. Things were out of order, but you know what, on this channel, they always fucking are. Who cares? You got the main gist of the story. Did I like it? What do you think? I freaking loved it. It was a great end to the trilogy. It was a lot of fun. A lot happened. There are a lot of characters, but you typically get that in a progression of early D&D trilogy novels. Still pissed Drive-Thru RPG doesn't have the Maztica box set for print on demand, but I did order 2 of the Maztica adventures. Hopefully they will detail Talon Magic and Pluma Magic. I'm really kind of interested in that. So there you have it. There will be another book review, or possibly 2, coming either today or tomorrow, so kind of keep your eyes out for that. But if you enjoyed the video, I urge you to like, subscribe, leave a comment, do all that other stuff that YouTubers tell you to do. We're not a big channel. We're by no means, we're not the smallest channel. We're sitting around 590 at the moment. So if you have friends that you can recommend to subscribe to us, that would be very welcome. But you know what? Until then, everyone, please have a fantastic rest of your day. Stay safe. Drink some nice fucking beer. Read a fucking book, people.